games, despite a semi-block punt, is still doing well. They've done an impressive job giving Riverside great field position and locking down El Camino in bad field position. So
what's amazing is that Riverside with Anthony Zamora, his worst punt is still 34 yards down the field. And Zamora is just one of those guys that we can expect this year to help carry this football team to the playoffs. And yes, I did say a punter is going to be a big cognate there for Riverside, but one key point for that Riverside top 5 defense is that Anthony Zamora is giving them some great field position. 3:18 to go. Riverside up 31-7. Shotgun snap. There goes Eben Jackson, who slings it far side and has his man.
It's intercepted.
Goodall.
That's intercepted.
It's intercepted. Wow, what a big play. Ray Ford on the interception.
Yeah, Ray Ford reading that totally perfect and gets himself a pick. I was just going to say that. Let's see if Riverside could create another turnover, and they just read my mind. Good job.
2 interceptions by that Tigers defense today, Dan.
Wow, talk about day and night like we've been saying. This is exactly what we are supposed to see from the Riverside Tigers.
And now let's just run out the remainder of the fourth quarter and end this game 31-7 with a victory here, 3-1 for Riverside. Let's just try and get out of here with a W in this kind of a score. As Nicholas King on a 1st and 10 lines up in the pistol set, calling plays at the line of scrimmage, asking for the football. Shotgun snap, handoff to Foster into enemy territory across the 45 and crawls his way to the 40-yard line. Christopher Anderson, for a gash for 17.
Wow, how aggressive was that run? Running mad, straight down the middle. He didn't have to give a move to the left, to the right. He just says, I see a lane, I'm taking it.
With a head of steam, a pickup of 17 yards for Riverside's Christopher Anderson. That 1-2 punch is pretty lethal.
It is. Foster and
Christopher Anderson, too. They've been great.
Yes, they are.
1st and 10. Riverside continuing to move the chains on the ground. They were last in Southern California in rushing first downs, but they have helped their cause in today's matchup. Denzel Foster and Christopher Anderson must have gained at least 8 first downs on the ground. That running game has been solid for the Tigers.
Finally, it's something we were talking about last week. They've only been averaging 2 yards on the run. Christopher Anderson coming in gives them a surge of energy. Denzel Foster does what he does best, and that's grind it out. And we've got a 1-2 punch of Christopher Anderson and Denzel Foster that will be lethal as the season continues.
Yeah, it looks like Riverside will average over 5 yards a carry today. Handoff goes to Christopher Anderson, another flag. That'll be a pickup of 10, barring the penalty. And yes, holding against the offense. They've got to sure this thing up next week. They really do. Despite the 31-7 win, but Dan, your takeaway in this ball game?
Well, my biggest takeaway is the lack of turnovers from Riverside. Finally, a team last week that just was out of sync and came out horrible.
They were handing the ball to the other team at will. I mean, just on a silver platter, giving the ball to the other team.
I wouldn't even say they came out flat. They just came out horrible. And so now a sign of relief, a sign that says, hey, we could probably compete and go deep into the playoffs if we clean up a few things. So now they were on a decline from the start of the season to the third game of the season. They were on a decline. Now looks like they're going uphill.
Well, Christopher Anderson running uphill for a 5-yard pickup. We're now down to under 140 to play. Riverside leads 31-7, and it's the Tigers that face the Fullerton College Hornets next week. Yeah. And I believe, as we'll take a look at the football scoreboard, there's still no updates out of Fullerton College. So we'll keep you locked here on Spreaker.com for updates between Fullerton and Golden West. But Mount Sac still has a 38-33 lead over Long Beach midway through the fourth quarter.
They do. And, hey, Nick, you know Coach Kraft more than anybody I know.
Right.
And it seems like he's not going to be satisfied with this win. There's still a lot of things to improve on, and he'll be the first one to tell you what they are. And it will be interesting to talk to him during the week about this victory here.
Personally, I think Tom Kraft, off of this game, he won't be happy, but I think he needs to look at himself and the ridiculous play calling, especially in the first quarter. But I think he finally has found his man, Nicholas King. Kelly Helinski was the guy that Tom Kraft knew more than anybody. He was comfortable with him. But Nicholas King is, frankly, the guy with the better upside.
He does, and it shows in the other players. The other players come out with more energy when he's out there. I see their body language, and it just tells me that they like him. And one of the things
nothing replaces a team that will stand behind its quarterback.
Right, and one thing that stood out is no turnovers from King. Good job.
Yeah, King, he finished the day with over 200 yards, a rushing touchdown, a passing score, and Denzel Foster ran loose. He was able to score twice on the ground. A.J. Hodgkins had the interception return touchdown, and that defense scored again in the fourth quarter with a Mickey Fanga-Tua 97-yard fumble recovery for a score. And yes, that is a 280-pound defensive lineman that was able to get in from end zone to end zone.
Right.
And now it's the defense that is the staple of Riverside moving forward. Last year it was that Skylar Howard-led offense, but the tides have turned here in the city by LA.
Mm-hmm. It seems like this offense is more suited for Nicholas King. The read option with his speed, it just makes more sense for him to run it than Helinski. I'm not saying Helinski's not fast, but when you got a guy who's faster than Nicholas King, the read option it suits him more, like I said.
The unfortunate thing is Helinski is such an emotional quarterback. When things were going great.
I did notice that too. You're right.
Right. When things were going great, he was great. Kelly Helinski he's the sophomore out of Notre Dame High School. He was highly successful in Notre Dame, but coming to Columbia University, he got that scholarship. The team was not that talented, and his emotions got the best of him as Tremel Davis runs for about 12, and that'll end the game. But Helinski, when things are going bad, he's real bad. Nicholas King, we've seen one game of him, and we like what he brings to the table. 0-0s on the clock here in Wheelock Stadium, and Riverside takes care of business at home. Still, that defense has yet to give up a touchdown here at Wheelock Stadium, and it's a final here at Riverside College as it's the Tigers that take care of business. 31-7 victors over number 18 El Camino College, and now the number 9 RCC Tigers have a shot to climb up the rankings. And Dan, do they have a shot to get into the top 8?
I would say yes. I would even put them in the top 5 after this performance, and it's only because of the defense. The defense is showing themselves as a top defense in the country, not alone just in the state, but all across this country. You've got to admit, when you've got over 5 sacks a game, you've got 3 pass interceptions, that screams out a monster of a D.
The 7 points by El Camino was on the pick 6. So they, off of the last 2 games here, Dan, in Wheelock Stadium. I mean, obviously your road woes are critical heading into the playoffs, but Riverside, 2 home games, their combined score is 82-10. Against Bakersfield and number 18 El Camino.
Home field really doesn't play a factor at the JUCO level, but it
does in Riverside
because of the stands. They're always jam-packed. There's the support from the community, and it's a close-knit community. So, hey, it means a lot for them to play at home, and they come out, obviously, with a lot more intensity and a lot more energy, and that's what we saw tonight. A defensive front that was just unstoppable, creating turnovers, creating points, and it shows.
Well, the home stands over 2,000 strong. They witnessed a defensive showing for the record books as the Tigers were able to score 14 points on that side of the football. And Mickey Fanga-Tua has established himself, Dan, as a top-flight defensive lineman. And I'd love to see some of the offers that will come his way this year.
Hey, and I'm going to go straight into it. My player of the game is Mickey Fanga-Tua.
Right.
Because of what he did today, just causing havoc, picking up a ball and stomping, rumbling and stomping. All the way into the end zone.
I would have called yourself a liar if you would have said Mickey Fanga-Tua was going to outscore the El Camino offense today. The Warriors averaged 32 yards per game offensively. How about 0 by a Joey Notch-led offense in that game. It was the pick six that makes it 31-7.
It is.
And we'll go ahead and get stats for you. I'll be right back in a moment. But, Dan, just final thoughts here between what you saw on the Riverside side of the football.
A lot more energy and a lot more intensity. And now with Nicholas King emerging as possibly the starter for next week as Helinski throws another pick six early on in the first half, which sucked out the energy from Riverside. And then Nicholas King comes in and he just says, this is my job for the taking. It's possible that now we've got a new quarterback, a new era in Riverside here tonight as Riverside takes this one 31-7. We'll bring you stats as soon as we have them. And just a competitive ball game only from Riverside. El Camino did not show up tonight as they had to travel all the way to Riverside and take on a defense that just was not giving up anything tonight. And they certainly didn't give up a single point. Only a pick six from the El Camino side. Pass that was poorly thrown from Kelly Helinski, and again, Kelly Helinski seems like he has officially lost his job. And Nicholas King, the 6'4", 220 kid from Westchester High School, it seems like is now the main man for Riverside. And as we continue this post-game report, some of the things that stood out in this game were the defensive front of Riverside, a front that was just overly imposing. That offensive front of El Camino, and they just were refusing to allow any yards on the ground. And a lot of the things they caused, other than sacks, were coverage sacks. They gave their defensive backs an opportunity to work, and they came up with 3 interceptions tonight. So good for them and good for Riverside, expecting to climb the rankings as Long Beach loses tonight to Mount Sac. We'll bring you up to date stats on all the games going around in the JUCO world in California, and up to date stats about this game as soon as Nick Rice comes back here. So we'll take a short break here, and thanks for listening to Spreaker.com, and we'll be back with stats and scores around the JUCO world.
Well, thank you for joining us here on Spreaker.com's National Sports. We have statistics, and a lot of them, between Riverside and El Camino. I don't think this attendance speaks the story. Only 400 people attended this game. That is far from an accurate statistic. But anyways, as we move on to players' statistics here for Riverside, let's start with the defense, which, I mean, my God, they were a great did they win the football game here for Riverside today? A.J. Hodgkins with a sack, 1.5 for Christopher Lewis. Mickey Fangatua, our player of the game, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, a fumble recovery, 86 yards for a touchdown. And don't forget about their pass deflection. 7 sacks recorded by Riverside, wow, and 14 tackles for losses there for the Tigers.
Yeah, it seems like we mentioned all game, it's a defensive team Riverside has, and you brought it up best. It sort of reminds us of that 2002 Baltimore Ravens team that didn't have the most formidable offense but had the overly imposing defense that screamed out championship squad.
It's all led by a man that I think will lead us to the promised man, Jonah Moy.